What's up? This is Dion No ID Wilson, CEO of ARTium Brands, Executive Vice President of Def Jam Recordings, producer, creator, and such and such. Certain principles that you have to ground yourself in to have longevity. Some of the principles that one rule, here's a simple rule. Everything I do it like I've never done another thing ever. I don't have the pressure of what I've ever accomplished on my shoulders when I'm creating. I'm creating just from a place as if I've never done a record. It keeps me fresh, young, new. It keeps me from repeating what I do. And that's a simple principle that I could take into business. That's a simple principle I could take into life. I feel like they're all correlated. Being able to enjoy the life experience, the music experience, the creation experience, building the business experience, all these things can contain an energy that if you keep yourself in a fresh new place, that energy can inspire you. It's the pressure of trying to beat what you've done that usually makes you not have the capacity to create something you've never done. That's my edge. The edge is that although there's a thread that connects me from the beginning to now, and it's my personality in music and in my whole lifestyle, I do think that if you look at the first things I've done to the last things that I've done, I've taken chances and have not been afraid to recreate myself and take chances with new artists who may not have had the profile to work with someone of my accomplishments. But those are the things that get in the way. You have to stay involved with new, young, fresh people, and you have to have as little ego as possible in those processes, because it can damage your ability to grow. I would call it an analog state of mind, which is that we're living in a digital world when you can kind of be anything you want to be on this screen, and you can be anything you want to be in the way you promote your imagery and social media. It's another world that's not necessarily the real analog world. And in the real world, people need real experience, real connection, real products, real tangible experience, discovery. I base my thought process on knowing that there must be something tangible in the reality of what I'm doing that makes it different or special, for lack of better words. Maybe special is not the word. Maybe unique enough to be coveted by someone, or something that someone can take in and say, this is mine and I own it because it makes me express my individuality or my creative nature a little better. Or it's like having something to get out, something that you can't say. It's like, yes, that's it right there. I used to love her was something that we couldn't say, but we made it sonically happen, and then all of a sudden it was there, and that's what we meant. So those things again, as a creator of music, one of the best feelings is when someone walks up and says, man, this song affected me, and they can look you in your eyes and that it meant something. It's not when they say, oh man, oh, that record went #1. Oh, that record generated this amount of money. That's cool. But every year it's 52 of those records. And every year you're going to forget 49 of them. And then 3 of them you're never going to forget. And they're going to mean something to you. And you're going to have those in your life, in and out of your life. And you're going to run into people who are affected by it. And I'm trying to be a part of that 6%. And the void is where there's nothing. So where I'm trying to go is where there is nothing, because then I'm creating, because this space is just it's relative to something that's there, but it's where there's nothing. So I look and see what people are doing to know where I don't want to be. And then I can calculate the trends of how people's minds accept things in a linear fashion from this trend to this trend to this trend. And I can jump stages ahead and maybe turn things to the left, knowing where people will end up just from watching the pattern of their thoughts. Just in a simple sentence or two, things create an appetite in people. And if you know everybody's eating the same thing, you know what they will get tired of, and you know what that will lead them to if you know the nature of why they went from this to this. And then you can start to predict this. But, you know, the special things in life, again, are the things that come out of nowhere, and you're like, how did Adele do 30 million records? What was that? What was the appetite of, you know, if you look back to Amy Winehouse, you could see it. And if you look back to just certain artists every single year, you can see that every year people get an appetite of something different. And that different thing, it has a line that connects them, but they're totally different. They always come out of the void, if you ask me. It's something you just don't see coming, and you go, okay, great, I love it. Matter of fact, this is so special to me that I have to have it. I have to be a part of it. Is how to go back and pick up things that were useful in making things great that we leave behind because technology allows us to. And with that being said, it's like, you know, would Michael Jackson have made Thriller if he didn't have to go see Quincy Jones, and Quincy Jones didn't have to go get the writers and Bruce Swedien, and you know, there was no Pro Tools on the laptop. If Michael Jackson had Pro Tools on the laptop, we may have gotten something else. You know what I mean? So as technology advances, it's easier for us to do things, but it's also easier for us to skip, you know, to treat it like food in a microwave versus, you know, a Michelin star chef cooking food that tastes great, that you will drive and fly miles to get, that will not taste like the microwave food. And it's more than anything, I'm just learning, going back and learning how to cook and meeting other chefs and, you know, taking the time to implement these things and not, you know, speed up my process to just be faster and, you know, actually take a little more time and, you know, craft everything that I'm doing, whether it be thinking of a brand or thinking of how to market music, or, you know, all those thoughts were in our mind when we did Common. That's the point. We were just trying to be good enough to be recognized from a city where there was no rap music scene. We weren't. Now I think about, you know, I literally sat down with him before he did this album. I said, hey, don't worry about numbers. We're going to make you into the spokesman for a specific part of culture. That's what you are now. You don't need a hot club record. You don't need a hot radio record. You need to be defined to a new generation. Who are you? Why do you exist? What's going on? And, you know, the Glory record was the culmination of that concept, which then puts him everywhere. You know what I mean? And without a hit club record or a hit radio record, that wasn't what we needed. Nobody would have believed it. It didn't even fit who he was. We had to, you know, take the time to go through the steps and stages to create that. And now he can do what he wants to do, you know, whether it be shoot movies, commercials, make records, you know, he's right back, probably in a bigger spotlight than he's ever been. Maybe not all creative, but just from people being able to connect. And these are things we never thought about. You know, it's probably the difference between a him and a Kanye or this and that. You know, Kanye thought about those things earlier than we did, because we kind of paved the way for him to not have to figure out what we figured out, you know. And then it's like, and then he paves the way for us, and then we figure out what he figures out, and and so on and so forth. You have to score a human being like you score a movie. You have to look at them, you have to figure it out. That's actually something I learned from Jermaine Dupri. I don't know if he knew I learned it from him, but I definitely learned it from him. Being able to look at a person, listen to them, watch their conversations, see what they wear, where they go, and say, what's believable? And what does that sonic sound like? What is that? How do you hear that in your head? The same way as if you see a love scene in a movie, how do you hear that musically? The way you see a violent scene in a movie, a suspense scene in a movie, how do you make that come into our audio version to fit a human being? So like literally DOA came from sitting in a room and an argument going on about what Jay-Z should be doing and saying. And Kanye was like, no, he needs to be doing hardcore beats and saying this and dissing everything commercial. And I was just sitting there like, okay, I know what that sounds like. And I literally made it right there and gave it to him. And the next morning he said everything that we were talking about. I was in the studio with Nas and he started telling me about what was going on with his daughter. I said, stop. Don't say another word, write it down. Why? Because people need to know you. You're a new guy to a 15-year-old. What is that? And then here's the music that sounds like that to me, And those are the things that, I remember Jay-Z one day came to me and said, yo, man, congratulations, you won a Grammy for Death for Auto-Tune. I was like, well, the song won. I didn't get a Grammy on that. That wasn't a Grammy category. I got the certificate, You don't always get a physical statue. I was like, well, I got the Grammy for Run This Town, not that. He was like, nah, you're missing my point. He was like, that song's not supposed to win. He's like, that song has no real chorus. It's a hardcore rap beat. We dissing commercial music, and that's an accomplishment. He was like, forget the trophy. You made that song, and it accomplished that. Well, again, this is just simple. We had a reason and a purpose, and I dialed in. That's part of my job, but a lot of people don't know how to dial in. They don't know how to figure out what they're doing. They're more so trying to make a beat that dials into themselves to say how good they are. Look at me. I'm going to put the tag on the front of the beat so you know it's me. You know what I mean? It's a different thought process that goes into scoring a human being and making a beat that people don't like. Music is the most powerful, influential tool that we have. It's more powerful than teachers in school because kids will memorize and live word for word what music tells them to live. It's more powerful than preachers in religion. They, if you go, a kid knows what a rapper or a singer said. They will dress that way. They will talk that way. They will go eat. They will put the button-down shirt on. They will put the jersey on. They will do whatever these songs say. So it's a duty that I feel to make, because I grew up in that era where it was Public Enemy, Tupac, and it was hard for NWA and Too Short because they were negative. Now we're in an era where it's the opposite. It's like, wow, Kendrick said something. Well, yeah. Shouldn't we say something? Is it, because you have a 12-year-old listening and they need choices. They need to know all the choices to have a round understanding of human existence. They need to hear it all. He brings a balance in. There are people who are bringing the balance back. But, there have been times in my life where I've personally went on journeys to help those type of people exist. Meaning I didn't per se help Kendrick, but I remember one day, this is a true story, J. Cole was like, man, people won't buy my beats, man. I want to get on Nas, I want to get on Common. And I told him, I said, why don't you work with your peers? Start there. Then a couple days later, he goes, yo, I got Kendrick Lamar. I'm about to do a record with him, man. He dope, man. I want you to meet him. and he brings him by the studio, and it's him and J-Rock, and it was a quick meeting. But he goes and does the record High Power based off this conversation, which to me, it's not me doing something, it's me influencing them to do something, and me giving Cole a little insight to help him, develop who he is. And, by no means do I take away from what anyone is to say I did it. It's just my role as a person with a lot of information to help influence these pieces to grow. It's almost like making sure it rains, making sure the sunshine, making sure all the seasons happen so the seeds can grow properly. And that's the part that creates the ecosystem. You know what I mean? You have to take the ego out of it and know that it's a lot of different people with a lot of different perspectives that have to be heard for the next 11-year-old to go, where do I fit in here? What can I do? What can't I do? What can I say? What can't I say? It's relative to what's happening. What's on the biggest stage? That's why I fight. I could easily go just be an independent label. For what? It don't make sense to me because these companies, Def Jam, that was an independent label. All Island, independent label. Atlantic, like all these companies and brands, they were purchased by corporations. They were independent. So it's almost like having a mansion that's a little rundown and saying, I don't want to be in there, it's rundown, I'm going to go in the treehouse. For what? Why? I'm not supposed to be in the treehouse. I'm supposed to be in the mansion. Well, the mansion ain't right now. Well, I'm going to get the mansion right. Because I'm a rightful heir to one of these mansions. I'm not running away because it's not right. I don't care if I got to gut it out and rehab it. This was built. Rick and Russell built this. And I come from that spirit. I'm cut from that cloth. I'm not going to iTunes. That's not where I'm going. I'm going here. And all of that can happen. That's great. I'm not saying I won't be involved in iTunes. I'm saying they're not going to limit me to thinking as an independent mind, I can't do anything within these corporations. I can change the whole thing because I think I can. And that's going to make a better thing so I can get these people on these stages and influence mine.